on the unexpected. During these meditations he repeated very frequently, and always with a profounder note of derision, the exploded proverb, "In the country of the blind, the one-eyed man is king." He thought chiefly of ways of fighting and conquering these people, and it grew clear that for him no practicable way was possible. He had no weapons, and now it would be hard to get one. The canker of civilization had got to him even in Bogota, and he could not find it in himself to go down and assassinate a blind man. Of course, if he did that, he might then dictate terms on the threat of assassinating them all. But sooner or later he must sleep. He tried also to find food among the pine trees, to be comfortable under pine boughs while the frost fell at night, and, with less confidence, to catch a llama by artifice, in order to try to kill it, perhaps by hammering it with a stone, and so finally perhaps to eat some of it. But the llamas had a doubt of him, and regarded him with distrustful brown eyes, and spat when he drew near. Fear came on him the second day, in fits of shivering. Finally he crawled down to the wall of the country of the blind, and tried to make his terms. He crawled along by the stream, shouting, until two blind men came out to the gate and talked to him. "I was mad," he said, "but I was only newly made." They said that was better. He told them he was wiser now, and repented of all he had done. Then he wept without intention, for he was very weak and ill now, and they took that as a favourable sign. They asked him if he still thought he could see. "No," he said, "that was folly. The word means nothing, less than nothing." They asked him what was overhead. "About 10 times 10 the height of a man, there's a roof above the world of rock, and very, very smooth. So smooth, so beautifully smooth." He burst again into hysterical tears. "Before you ask me any more, give me some food, or I shall die." He expected dire punishments, but these blind people were capable of toleration. They regarded his rebellion as but one more proof of his general idiocy and inferiority, and after they had whipped him they appointed him to do the simplest and heaviest work they had for anyone to do, and he, seeing no other way of living, did submissively what he was told. He was ill for some days, and they nursed him kindly. That refined his submission, but they insisted on his lying in the dark, and that was a great misery. And blind philosophers came and talked to him of the wicked levity of his mind, and reproved him so impressively for his doubts about the lid of rock that covered their cosmic casserole, that he almost doubted whether indeed he was not the victim of hallucination in not seeing it overhead. So Nunez became a citizen of the country of the blind, and these people ceased to be a generalized people and became individualities to him and familiar to him, while the world beyond the mountains became more and more remote and unreal. There was Jacob, his master, a kindly man when not annoyed. There was Pedro, Jacob's nephew, and there was Medina Sarota, who was the youngest daughter of Jacob. She was little esteemed in the world of the blind, because she had a clear-cut face and lacked that satisfying glossy smoothness that is the blind man's ideal of feminine beauty. But Nunez thought her beautiful at first, and presently the most beautiful thing in the whole creation. Her closed eyelids were not sunken and red after the common way of the valley, but lay as though they might open again at any moment, and she had long eyelashes, which were considered a grave disfigurement, and her voice was weak, and did not satisfy the acute hearing of the valley swains, so that she had no lover. There came a time when Nunez thought that, could he win her, he would be resigned to live in the valley for all the rest of his days. He watched her, he sought opportunities of doing her little services, and presently he found that she observed him. Once, at a rest-day gathering, they sat side by side in the dim starlight, and the music was sweet. His hand came upon hers, and he dared to clasp it. Then very tenderly she returned his pressure, and one day, as they were at their meal in the darkness, He felt her hand very softly seeking him, and as it chanced the fire leaped then, and he saw the tenderness of her face. He sought to speak to her. He went to her one day when she was sitting in the summer moonlight spinning. The light made her a thing of silver and mystery. He sat down at her feet and told her he loved her, and told her how beautiful she seemed to him. He had a lover's voice. He spoke with a tender reverence that came near to awe, and she had never before been touched by adoration. She made him no definite answer, but it was yet clear his words pleased her. After that he talked to her whenever he could take an opportunity. The valley became the world for him, and the world beyond the mountains, where men lived by day, seemed no more than a fairy tale he would some day pour into her ears. Very tentatively and timidly he spoke to her of sight. Sight seemed to her the most poetical of fancies, and she listened to his description of the stars and the mountains, and her own sweet white-lit beauty, as though it was a guilty indulgence. She did not believe, she could only half understand, but she was mysteriously delighted, and it seemed to him that she completely understood. His love lost its awe and took courage. Presently he was for demanding her of Jacob and the elders in marriage, but she became fearful and delayed, and it was one of her elder sisters who first told Jacob that Medina Sarote and Nunez were in love. There was from the first very great opposition to the marriage of Nunez and Medina Sarote, not so much because they valued her as because they held him as being apart, an idiot, incompetent thing, below the permissible level of man. Her sisters opposed it bitterly as bringing discredit on them all, and old Jacob, though he had formed a sort of liking for his clumsy, obedient serf, shook his head and said the thing could not be. The young men were all angry at the idea of corrupting the race, and one went so far as to revile and strike Nunez. He struck back. Then for the first time he found an advantage in seeing, even by twilight, and after that fight was over no one was disposed to raise a hand against him. But they still found his marriage impossible. Old Jacob had a tenderness for his last little daughter, and was grieved to have her weep upon his shoulder. "You see, my dear, he's an idiot. He has delusions. He can't do anything right." "I know," wept Medina Sarote, "but he's better than he was. He's getting better, and he's strong, dear father, and kind, stronger and kinder than any other man in the world. And he loves me, and, father, I love him." Old Jacob was greatly distressed to find her inconsolable, and besides, what made it more distressing, he liked Nunez for many things. So he went and sat in the windowless council-chamber with the other elders and watched the trend of the talk, and said at the proper time, "He's better than he was. Very likely some day we shall find him as sane as ourselves." Then afterwards one of the elders, who thought deeply, had an idea. He was a great doctor among these people, their medicine-man, and he had a very philosophical and inventive mind, and the idea of curing Nunez of his peculiarities appealed to him. One day when Jacob was present he returned to the topic of Nunez. "I have examined Nunez," he said, "and the case is clearer to me. I think very probably he might be cured." "This is what I have always hoped," said the old Jacob. "His brain is affected," said the blind doctor. The elders murmured assent. "Now, what affects it?" "Ah," said old Jacob. "This," said the doctor, answering his own question. "Those queer things that are called the eyes, and which exist to make an agreeable depression in the face, are diseased, in the case of Nunez, in such a way as to affect his brain. They are greatly distended. He has eyelashes, and his eyelids move, and consequently his brain is in a state of constant irritation and distraction." "Yes," said old Jacob. "Yes, and I think I may say with reasonable certainty that, in order to cure him complete, all that we need do is a simple and easy surgical operation, namely, to remove these irritant bodies.